Hi, I'm Elyse from the B team, and today we are downtown at Gato, which is Bobby's Mediterranean restaurant here in New York City. I'm here with Daniel. He's our beverage director, and I have a few questions about wine today. Daniel, what is your strategy and what are some of the challenges that you come across when you're pairing Mediterranean wine and the wine in our wine list with Bobby's take on Mediterranean food?
Well, I think the biggest challenge is getting people to try something that they've never had before, or something that might be a little bit more obscure. People are very comfortable with, with well-branded wines, things like Sancerre or domestic Pinot Noirs. There's a comfort level associated with those wines, and people gravitate towards them. So I think that's the biggest challenge is trying to get them to try wines from countries throughout the Mediterranean. Once you understand Bobby's style of cooking, you realize he likes to use a lot of bold flavors. So there's chilies throughout the menu. There's a lot of charred meats. There's fresh pungent herbs. There's citrus. So there's a lot going on with the food, and you have to keep that in mind when you're selecting the wines. You don't want to fight with any of those components. So the hardest thing is the heat. Spicy food is definitely challenging, and I think in one way or another the wines need to have a little bit of sweetness. Whether it's just an abundance of fruit or a little bit of residual sugar, it definitely helps. I like to pick wines from throughout the Mediterranean, from southern Italy, from coastal Spain. One of my favorite areas to pair with the food is from Basque Country in northeastern Spain, sandwiched right in between Spain and southern France. It's a very unique part of the world, and they have two influences in their winemaking. They have the cool air from the mountains as well as from the ocean. So you get this high elevation fruit that has two cooling forces acting upon it and a lot of sun. So you get these very bright wines, and they're concentrated, they have fruit, they have great acidity, and they have just the slightest amount of effervescence, not quite sparkling, but really good with anything. It can stand up to the pork chop, goes great with any of the seafood, and overall just a great drinking wine.
So I think with such a large wine list that Gato has, and many other restaurants have, people tend to stick with what they know and order names that they recognize. So can you maybe point out a few of your favorites on our wine list that people maybe don't necessarily recognize the names, they're a little bit more obscure, but they're just as good? What do you think?
When putting the wine list together, you do have to keep in mind that people are going to order what they know. And every time you do list one of those items, you put three that they would like if they were to try, but that aren't that specific. Being, if you list Chablis, we have one Chablis on the list by Louis Michel. Great producer, classic style, great value. But we also list, we have three Godeos on the list from central Spain, and those are heavily influenced by Burgundy and by Chablis specifically. And they have a little bit more fruit. They have high intensity, and they have great acidity, so they go with a lot of our seafood dishes and a lot of our vegetable dishes. So that's always my strategy, is to give people a reference point to something they would understand, to say this wine, could have been influenced by Burgundy or by Rhone. I tend to go to France or the US for those reference points because I think that's what's most familiar to diners.
Well, that's very interesting. I've learned a lot myself. Thank you so much, Daniel. And thanks for visiting us here at Gato. Please come down and try the wines yourself. 324 Lafayette Street in New York City.